Wolverine's claws are the most iconic weapons in comic book history. For over 5 decades, those adamantium blades slicing through panels have defined what makes Logan the best there is at what he does. But here's what most fans don't realize. Those signature claws have gone through radical transformations that most people have never heard about. We're not just talking about the difference between bone and metal. We're talking about mystical blades that can kill immortals, cosmic fire that burns through reality itself, and variations across alternate universes that turned Logan's weapons into something completely different. From the natural bone claws he was born with to the Phoenix Force transcendence that made him a cosmic threat, every version of Wolverine's claws tells a different story about power, sacrifice, and what happens when you push a weapon beyond its limits. This is every Wolverine claw explained, ranked from the weakest natural mutation to the reality-warping cosmic enhancement that almost destroyed the universe. Natural bone claws. James Howlett's bone claws represent his original mutant ability that manifested during childhood trauma in the late 1800s, first revealed in Origin number 1-6, 2001 to 2002. Written by Paul Jenkins and Bill Jost and drawn by Andy Kubert. For decades, readers believed Wolverine's claws were purely technological implants from the Weapon X program, but Origin, and later X-Men, Volume 2, Number 25, 1993, by Fabian Nicieza, definitively established that Logan was born with retractable bone claws as part of his mutation. These claws extend from between his knuckles through small slits in his skin, measuring approximately 12 inches in length and tapering to razor-sharp points. The bone claws are organic extensions of his skeleton composed of the same dense bone tissue as the rest of his body. And while formidable weapons capable of piercing flesh and even thin metals, they possess the natural limitations of bone. They can chip, crack, or even break entirely under sufficient force or against harder materials like steel or titanium. The bone claw's natural limitations become devastatingly apparent in X-Men Volume 2, Number 25, 1993, when Magneto, enraged by Wolverine's attack, uses his magnetic powers to violently rip every molecule of adamantium from Logan's skeleton in one of the most brutal moments in X-Men history. The scene depicts Logan screaming in agony as the liquid metal tears through his body and out through his pores, leaving him broken and near death. As Logan struggles to recover in subsequent issues, he discovers something shocking. His claws still extend, but now they're bone instead of metal, revealing that his signature weapons were always part of his mutation, rather than Weapon X implants. The bone claws prove effective against human opponents and most mutants, allowing Logan to continue operating as Warrior despite losing his adamantium. But they lack the indestructibility he'd relied on for decades. In Wolverine, Volume 2, Number 75, 1993, Logan fights Sabretooth with only bone claws and discovers they can be chipped and damaged by his enemy's stronger adamantium-laced skeleton, forcing him to adapt his fighting style to avoid direct clashes that would shatter his natural weapons. This demonstrates that bone claws represent Wolverine's true mutant power stripped of technological enhancement, formidable but vulnerable, and that his decades of relying on adamantium indestructibility had made him forget the limitations of his original weapons. Classic adamantium claws. The adamantium bonding procedure performed by the Weapon X program in the late 1960s or early 1970s transformed Logan's bone claws into virtually indestructible blades, capable of cutting through nearly any material on Earth. First depicted in Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X storyline in Marvel Comics Presents, number 72 to 84, 1991, the procedure involved injecting molten adamantium throughout Logan's entire skeleton while he was submerged in a tank and subjected to brutal psychological conditioning. The adamantium bonded at the molecular level to his bones, coating his skeleton, including the bone claws, with the virtually indestructible metal alloy. The process transformed his 12-inch bone claws into gleaming silver blades that could slice through steel, concrete, and most metals like butter, could withstand blows from Thor's hammer without chipping or breaking, and turned Logan into a living weapon whose claws became his most iconic feature for decades. The classic adamantium claws define Wolverine's combat effectiveness and visual identity from their introduction through most of his publication history, making him one of Marvel's most dangerous hand-to-hand combatants. In countless battles throughout Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine, and other titles spanning the 1970s through 1990s, the adamantium claws demonstrate their devastating capability. They cut through Sentinel's advanced armor in Days of Future Past, pierce the Hulk's nearly impenetrable skin during their famous first encounter in Incredible Hulk, number 181, 1974, by Len Wein and Herb Trimpe, and can even damage magical and mystical opponents because adamantium's properties transcend purely physical durability. The claw's indestructibility allows Logan to use them defensively, blocking energy blasts, deflecting bullets, and crossing them to create barriers that can withstand tremendous force. However, the adamantium bonding comes with terrible cost that becomes apparent over decades. The metal is poisonous, and only Logan's healing factor constantly fights the adamantium poisoning that would kill normal humans within hours. In Death of Wolverine number 1-4, 2014, written by Charles Soule and drawn by Steve McNiven, when Logan temporarily loses his healing factor, the adamantium poisoning begins killing him slowly, revealing that the enhancement that made him nearly unstoppable has been slowly poisoning him for his entire life, making the classic adamantium claws both his greatest weapon and a slow-acting death sentence since he's survived only through constant regeneration. Carbonadium claws. Carbonadium represents the Soviet Union's attempt to recreate the Weapon X program's adamantium bonding process, resulting in a synthetic metal that's more flexible than adamantium, but slightly less durable. Logan receives carbonadium claws during a period when his adamantium skeleton is removed, appearing in various storylines, but most notably explored in the Omega Red saga and related stories throughout the 1990s. Carbonadium possesses unique properties that differentiate it from true adamantium. It's radioactive at low levels, slightly malleable, allowing it to bend under extreme force rather than remaining perfectly rigid. And most significantly, it can disrupt healing factors through its radiation emissions, making carbonadium weapons particularly dangerous to beings like Wolverine, who rely on regeneration. When Logan temporarily possesses carbonadium-enhanced claws, they maintain most of the cutting power of adamantium, while adding the unsettling property of slowly poisoning healing factor users they wound, creating injuries that take longer to heal than normal damage. The carbonadium claw's primary appearance and exploration occurs through Logan's encounters with Omega Red, the Soviet super soldier who uses carbonadium coils as weapons. In X-Men Volume 2 numbers 4-7, 1992, written by Jim Lee and John Byrne, Omega Red's carbonadium tentacles demonstrate the metal's properties when they wrap around Wolverine and begin draining his life force, while simultaneously poisoning him through carbonadium radiation that disrupts his healing factor. During various periods when Logan lacks adamantium, particularly in alternate timelines and what-if scenarios, he sometimes receives carbonadium bonding as alternative enhancement. The metal proves effective. Carbonadium claws can still cut through steel, pierce most armors, and function as deadly weapons. But they lack adamantium's absolute indestructibility, meaning they can be damaged by sufficient force, or by harder materials like true adamantium. In confrontations between Logan with carbonadium claws and opponents with adamantium weapons, the carbonadium claws show wear and damage that adamantium would never suffer, demonstrating that while the Soviet substitute is formidable, it remains inferior to the Weapon X original, making carbonadium claws a compromise that provides most of adamantium's benefits, while introducing new vulnerabilities through radiation and slightly reduced durability. Muramasa blade claws. The Muramasa blade represents one of the most dangerous weapons in the Marvel Universe, a mystical katana forged by the legendary swordsmith Muramasa, using a piece of Logan's soul. making it uniquely capable of negating healing factors and inflicting wounds that cannot regenerate. First introduced in Wolverine, Volume 3, Number 40, 2006, written by Mark Miller and drawn by John Romita Jr., the Muramasa blade's origin reveals that Logan sought out the ancient swordsmith during a period of profound grief and rage, and Muramasa forged the sword by trapping a portion of Logan's fury and pain within the blade itself. This mystical connection means the sword carries Logan's essence, and wounds inflicted by Muramasa blades cannot be healed through regeneration, because the weapon contains the same soul energy that powers Logan's healing factor, essentially making it poison to healing abilities. When Logan commissions Muramasa to forge claws from the same mystical metal and process, the result is retractable claws that look similar to his adamantium blades, but glow with faint red energy and possess the terrifying ability to permanently wound or kill beings who would normally regenerate from any injury. The Muramasa blade claws demonstrate their unique properties in Wolverine Volume 3, Number 55, 2007, and subsequent stories where Logan wields them against opponents whose healing factors make them nearly unkillable. When fighting his son Dakin, who possesses similar regeneration abilities, Logan's Muramasa claws create wounds that don't heal, causing Dakin genuine fear because for the first time in his life, he faces a weapon that can kill him permanently. The mystical claws prove equally effective against other healing factor users, including Sabretooth, Deadpool, and even the Hulk in specific circumstances. In Wolverine Goes to Hell storyline from Wolverine Volume 4, Number 1 to 5, 2010, written by Jason Aaron, the Muramasa blade becomes central plot element as demons seek to claim it. Recognizing that a weapon capable of killing Wolverine permanently represents tremendous supernatural power. However, the Muramasa claws come with severe limitation. They're so dangerous that Logan keeps them hidden and only uses them as absolute last resort. Recognizing that wielding weapons containing his own rage and pain risks losing himself to the darkness within the blades. In Death of Wolverine storyline, the location and control of Muramasa blades becomes critical because they represent one of the few weapons that could kill Logan, even with his healing factor intact, demonstrating that mystical enhancements can create weapons more powerful than technological improvements, but that such power often comes with spiritual and psychological costs that make them too dangerous for regular use. Hot Claws. Hot Claws represent a temporary power enhancement that appears during World War Hulk X-Men Number 1 to 3, 2007, written by Christos Gage, when Wolverine's adamantium claws are superheated to temperatures exceeding 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit through a combination of circumstances involving energy absorption and metal's thermal conductivity. The concept of heating Wolverine's claws has appeared in various forms across different storylines, sometimes through external heat sources like lava or plasma, and other times through energy-based attacks that superheat the metal. When Logan's claws reach extreme temperatures, they glow cherry red or white hot and gain additional offensive capability beyond their normal cutting power. They can cauterize wounds as they cut, melt through materials that would resist normal adamantium claws, ignite flammable substances on contact, and inflict burns in addition to slash damage. The heated claws also become more effective against opponents with healing factors because thermal damage cauterizes as it cuts, making wounds harder to regenerate than clean slashes. The Hot Claw's most dramatic appearance occurs during the World War Hulk event, when Wolverine faces the enraged Jade Giant, who has returned to Earth seeking vengeance. In World War Hulk X-Men Number 2, 2007, Logan allows his claws to be superheated through proximity to the Hulk's gamma radiation and the intense heat generated by their battle, then drives the white-hot adamantium into Hulk's chest. The superheated claws actually harm Hulk significantly more than normal adamantium would because they're burning and cutting simultaneously, causing damage that even the Hulk's incredible healing factor struggles to repair quickly. The scene depicts steam rising from the wounds as heated metal sears flesh, demonstrating that thermal enhancement makes adamantium claws even more devastating. However, the hot claws come with severe drawbacks. They cause excruciating pain to Logan himself because the heat conducts through his adamantium skeleton, essentially cooking him from the inside out in agony that only his healing factor allows him to survive. Additionally, the superheated state is temporary and difficult to achieve intentionally, usually requiring specific battlefield conditions or enemy attacks that inadvertently heat the metal. In various other appearances across Wolverine comics, hot claws demonstrate that while thermal enhancement increases offensive capability, it's in situational advantage rather than sustainable upgrade, making it powerful but impractical as permanent enhancement. Energy claws. Energy claws represent various instances when Wolverine's adamantium blades become charged with or transformed into pure energy through cosmic forces, mystical sources, or advanced technology. These appearances vary widely in origin and capability, but share the common trait of transcending physical metal to become energy constructs that retain claw shape while gaining properties of whatever force powers them. Notable examples include Logan wielding Apocalypse's energy during his time as Horseman of Death, cosmic energy infusions during space-based adventures, and technological enhancements from advanced civilizations. When transformed into energy constructs, Logan's claws typically maintain their cutting ability, while adding energy-based properties like the ability to phase through physical matter, discharge energy blasts, disrupt force fields, and energy barriers that would stop physical blades, and sometimes even affect intangible or phased opponents who could normally avoid physical attacks. The Energy Claws concept appears most prominently during Logan's various empowerments by cosmic entities or his time wielding the Power Cosmic in Wolverine and the X-Men number 4-5, 2012, written by Jason Aaron. Logan briefly wields cosmic flames that extend from his claws during a space adventure, transforming his adamantium blades into conduits for stellar fire that burns at temperatures rivaling the sun's core. The energy-enhanced claws demonstrate dramatically increased destructive capability. They cut through Shi'ar warship hulls that would resist normal adamantium, discharge energy waves that strike multiple opponents simultaneously, and burn with intensity that overwhelms even enhanced healing factors. Similarly, during crossover events and team-ups with cosmic-level heroes, Logan's claws sometimes become temporarily charged with various energy types, including gamma radiation, speed force energy, or reality warping power that transforms his physical weapons into something approaching pure concept. However, every instance of energy claws proves temporary because Logan's body and mutation aren't designed to channel cosmic forces indefinitely. The enhancement burns out as the energy source fades or must be released before it destroys Logan from within. The energy transformations demonstrate that Wolverine's claws can serve as focus for virtually any type of power, suggesting that his mutation creates natural energy channels that cosmic forces can flow through, but that such enhancements remain brief empowerments rather than permanent upgrades, because mortal mutant physiology cannot sustain cosmic power levels indefinitely. Ultimate Wolverine Claws. Ultimate Wolverine from the Ultimate Universe, Earth 1610, possesses claws that differ significantly from mainstream Marvel Universe. Earth 616, Wolverine in both origin and properties. Introduced in Ultimate X-Men number 1, 2001, written by Mark Miller and drawn by Adam Kubert, Ultimate Logan's backstory reveals darker, more disturbing origins for his claws and adamantium bonding. In this continuity, Wolverine's entire skeleton, including his claws, was replaced with adamantium rather than being bonded to existing bone, making him more cyborg than enhanced human. Ultimate Wolverine's claws appear bulkier and more mechanical than their 616 counterpart, designed to look more like surgical implants or weapons grafted onto his body. The Ultimate Universe is grittier, more realistic take on superheroes meant that Logan's claws are treated as horrific mutilation. He survived rather than cool enhancement, and the psychological trauma of the Weapon X program receives greater emphasis in this continuity. The Ultimate Wolverine claws demonstrate several distinctive properties that differentiate them from classic adamantium claws throughout the Ultimate X-Men and Ultimates series. Ultimate Logan's healing. Factor is notably weaker than 616 Wolverine's, meaning his adamantium claws cause him significantly more pain when extending and retracting because his body heals slower from the repeated trauma. In Ultimate Wolverine vs. Hulk, number 1 to 6, 2006, written by Damon Lindelof, Ultimate Logan is literally torn in half by the Hulk and takes considerably longer to regenerate than his 616 counterpart would, demonstrating that his healing factor struggles more with the adamantium poisoning and cannot sustain as much damage. The Ultimate Claws also cannot cut through absolutely everything, like their 616 versions. They've been shown breaking or chipping against sufficiently hard materials, making them more realistically limited. Most significantly, Ultimate Wolverine's psychology treats his claws as weapons of trauma rather than heroic tools, with Logan experiencing genuine horror and self-loathing about the mutilation Weapon X inflicted on him, making his claws symbols of victimization rather than empowerment, and demonstrating how different narrative approaches can transform the same fundamental concept into weapons that represent entirely different themes, depending on whether they're viewed as cool enhancements or body horror. Phoenix Force Wolverine Claws. Phoenix Force Wolverine represents Logan's brief empowerment during Avengers vs. X-Men number 12, 2012, and related tie-ins when fragments of the Phoenix Force inhabit various X-Men including Wolverine, transforming his adamantium claws into conduits for infinite cosmic power. When bonded with even a fraction of the Phoenix Force, the cosmic entity embodying life, death, and rebirth for the entire universe, Logan's claws transcend physical metal to become extensions of cosmic flame that can cut through reality itself. The Phoenix-enhanced claws burn with eternal fire that exists simultaneously across all time streams, can destroy and recreate matter at atomic levels, cut through dimensional barriers, allowing Logan to slash open portals between realities, and most significantly, possess the power to permanently kill beings who would normally resurrect or regenerate, because Phoenix Fire can burn away the concept of something existing, rather than just destroying its physical form. The Phoenix Force Wolverine Claws demonstrate reality-altering power that places them among the most dangerous weapons in Marvel cosmology during Logan's brief empowerment. In Wolverine and the X-Men number 18, 2012, during the AVX event, Phoenix Wolverine's claws burn with cosmic fire that doesn't just cut enemies, but unmakes them from existence. Being struck by his Phoenix-enhanced claws don't just die, but are erased from reality so thoroughly that in some cases, other characters briefly forget they ever existed. The Phoenix flames extending from his claws allow Logan to affect intangible beings, cut through magical protections, and even wound abstract entities that exist as concepts rather than physical forms. When Phoenix Wolverine fights Gladiator and other cosmic-level opponents, his flaming claws clash with their attacks and prove capable of harming beings who normally shrug off planetary-scale destruction. However, the storyline makes clear that Logan fundamentally cannot control or sustain Phoenix Force power. His personality and the Phoenix's nature conflict too severely, with Logan's primal rage and willingness to kill clashing against the Phoenix's role as avatar of life and rebirth. The Phoenix Force eventually abandons Logan because his inability to accept the cosmic entity's full nature makes him unsuitable host, demonstrating that even when empowered by infinite cosmic force, Wolverine's claws remain most effective when they're physical weapons wielded by skilled warrior, rather than reality-warping extensions of universal power he cannot fully comprehend or control, making Phoenix Force Wolverine the absolute peak of claw enhancement, but also proof that some power levels exceed even Logan's capacity to wield effectively.